Yesterday evening, a man sat down on a television sofa in America and said 12 words that are still reverberating around the football world this morning. Those 12 words were these: "We will be together with the president handing the trophy to the winner." The man who said them was Gianni Infantino, the president of FIFA, the governing body of the most popular sport on earth. The man whose organization's founding statutes include a commitment to political neutrality so fundamental that it is used to justify banning governments from interfering in football associations around the world. The same justification FIFA uses to suspend entire nations from international football when their governments step too far into football's affairs. That man sat on the sofa of Fox and Friends, the morning television program that is perhaps the most closely associated with Donald Trump's political brand of any broadcast in America, and confirmed live on television that he and Donald Trump will together hand the FIFA World Cup trophy to the winners at the 2026 final. Together. All the time. Those were his exact words when asked to clarify. "We are together all the time. I am MB. This is House of MB." And in today's video, we are going through everything that has happened in the last 24 hours. Because the last 24 hours at this World Cup have been extraordinary, even by the standards of a tournament that has already produced more controversy per day than any World Cup in history. Let us start with exactly what happened yesterday evening, because the precise words matter and the context in which they were said matters enormously. Gianni Infantino appeared on Fox and Friends, a choice of television program that is itself significant, because Fox and Friends is not simply a morning news show. It is a program with a specific and well-documented political identity. It is a program that Donald Trump has described as one of his favorite television shows and has called into live multiple times as an unofficial communications platform throughout both of his presidencies. FIFA's president chose this program. Of all the television programs available to him in a country where the World Cup is being played, in a media landscape that includes every major broadcast network, every cable news channel, and every streaming platform that reaches a global audience, to make his most significant public statement to date about Trump's involvement in the tournament's closing ceremony. And on that program, asked whether he and Trump would be presenting the trophy together, Infantino said, and we are quoting directly from the confirmed transcript, "We will be together with the president enjoying the final and handing the trophy to the winner, of course, together," asked again to clarify, because the journalist asking wanted to be absolutely certain of what he was saying. Infantino replied simply, "Of course, we are together all the time. We are together all the time." Stop and think about what that phrase actually means. We are together all the time. This is the president of FIFA, the man who heads an organization that claims to operate independently from political interference, that bans member nations from allowing their governments to interfere in their football associations, that presents itself to the world as a body that stands above political divisions, describing his personal relationship with the current president of the United States in those terms. Not "we cooperate professionally on this tournament," not "we have a good working relationship," "we are together all the time." This is a statement about a personal alliance, a relationship that, according to Infantino's own description, is constant, ongoing, and intimate enough to warrant the phrase "all the time." And this relationship, this personal alliance between the head of world football's governing body and the head of state of the host nation, is what Infantino confirmed will be on full display at the most watched moment of this entire tournament. The trophy presentation at the World Cup final, the single most reproduced sports image on Earth, taken every 4 years, the image that every player who has ever dreamed of winning the World Cup has visualized, lifting that golden trophy above their head with their teammates around them while the world watches. And in 2026, in that image, standing right alongside the FIFA president, personally handing that trophy to the winning captain, will be Donald Trump. Now let us talk about how we got here, because this confirmation did not come out of nowhere. It is the culmination of a relationship that has been building publicly and visibly for over a year, and that has already shaped this World Cup in ways that deserve to be examined carefully before we get to the trophy moment at the end. The relationship between Infantino and Trump became publicly visible on January 20th, 2025, the day of Trump's inauguration as the 47th President of the United States. Infantino was there, front row. At one of the most politically significant and politically charged events in recent American history, the president of a sports organization that officially prioritizes political neutrality was sitting in a place of honor among the guests of the incoming administration. This was not required of Infantino. There is no FIFA protocol or obligation that required the FIFA president to attend the inauguration of any head of state. It was a choice, a deliberate, visible choice that sent a clear message about how Infantino intended to manage FIFA's relationship with the Trump administration in the years ahead. From that inauguration, the relationship only deepened. Infantino visited Trump at Mar-a-Lago in Florida. FIFA awarded Trump its Peace Prize in December 2025, a decision that drew condemnation from across the football world, including from Sepp Blatter, who endorsed a fan boycott of the World Cup in response. Trump established the White House FIFA Task Force, run by Andrew Giuliani, which secured $500 million in federal security funding for host cities. And through all of this, Infantino consistently described the relationship in terms of personal closeness, using language that by the time of yesterday's Fox and Friends appearance had evolved to its clearest expression yet. We are together all the time. Now let us talk about the trophy ceremony itself, because understanding what it normally looks like helps you understand exactly what is being changed and why that change matters. The FIFA World Cup trophy ceremony is one of the most carefully choreographed moments in international sport. FIFA has refined it over decades into a sequence of ritual moments that build toward the central image, the winning captain lifting the trophy above their head for the first time. The presenting of the trophy at the ceremony is traditionally done by a combination of FIFA officials and sometimes a head of state or senior dignitary of the host nation, but within a carefully managed protocol where the political figure's presence is clearly secondary to the footballing moment. The trophy is presented to the captain. The captain lifts it. That image, the captain and the trophy, is the image. Everything and everyone else in the frame is background. What Trump has communicated to FIFA, and what FIFA has confirmed it has no objection to, is a desire to be at the center of that moment, not in the background. Not a handshake with the captain as they receive the trophy from FIFA officials, but personally handing the trophy. Being the one whose hands transfer the most iconic object in world sport to the winning captain. Being in the photograph. That desire and FIFA's accommodation of it represents something qualitatively different from any previous head of state involvement in World Cup trophy ceremonies, and the reaction it has generated reflects that difference clearly. Let us talk about the reactions, because they reveal the global scale of what this confirmation has triggered. Australian football fans are among the first and most organized in their response. Reports emerged yesterday that Australian supporters planning to attend World Cup matches were already coordinating anti-Trump chants, organized vocal protests that would turn World Cup stadium atmospheres into platforms for political expression aimed directly at the man who will be handing the trophy to the winners. This is remarkable on multiple levels. Australia is a competing nation at this World Cup. Their players are on the pitch trying to advance in a tournament for their country, and their fans are simultaneously organizing what would amount to a political protest inside FIFA's own venues, directed at the political figure FIFA has invited into the trophy ceremony. FIFA's rules on political expression in its stadiums are well established and strictly enforced in most contexts. FIFA bans political symbols. FIFA bans flags associated with political movements. FIFA bans organized demonstrations inside its venues. But those rules have always been written to constrain fan behavior, not to address a situation where FIFA's own president has made a political statement by inviting a sitting head of state into the trophy ceremony itself. If Australian fans chant anti-Trump slogans at a World Cup match and FIFA moves to sanction them, FIFA will be applying its political expression rules against fans responding to a political arrangement that FIFA itself created. That is a position of extraordinary institutional contradiction, punishing fans for doing politically what FIFA's president has already done institutionally. If FIFA chooses not to enforce its rules in this case, allowing the chants because the political provocation that generated them came from inside the House, then FIFA has acknowledged that its rules around political expression are contextual rather than absolute. Either outcome damages FIFA's credibility in a specific and difficult-to-repair way. And this is the trap that Infantino's Fox and Friends confirmation has set for FIFA's own rule enforcement apparatus. Now let us talk about the other major development of yesterday. Because while the trophy confirmation was dominating football's global conversation, a completely separate and deeply troubling story was breaking in Tijuana, Mexico. A body was found in a car near Iran's FIFA World Cup training base in Tijuana. Tijuana is the Mexican border city where Iran's national team has been based throughout this World Cup, crossing into the United States specifically for their matches and then returning to Mexico in an arrangement that reflects the extraordinary geopolitical complexity of a nation at war with one of the tournament's host countries trying to compete in a tournament hosted partly by that country. The details of the body found near Iran's training base are still emerging as we record this video. The identity of the person, the circumstances of the death, and any connection or absence of connection to the World Cup or to Iran's presence in Tijuana are all subjects of active investigation, and we are not going to speculate beyond what is confirmed. What is confirmed is that a body was discovered near the training facility being used by one of the World Cup's competing national teams, in a Mexican border city that has its own deeply complicated security context. Tijuana sits on one of the world's busiest border crossings. It is a city where cartel presence and the security implications that come with it are a daily reality. A reality that predates the World Cup and will outlast it. But that takes on a specific dimension when a national football team is training there, because the host country to the north will not grant entry to their full delegation. The timing of this discovery, on the same day that Infantino was on American television confirming Trump's trophy role, underscores something that is easy to miss when you are watching individual controversies unfold in isolation. This World Cup is not experiencing one or two unusual stories alongside the football. It is experiencing a continuous, overlapping cascade of genuinely extraordinary situations, political, geopolitical, security-related, human rights-related, disciplinary, that are arriving faster than any previous World Cup has had to manage. The trophy confirmation and the Tijuana discovery happened on the same day. The Ronaldo ban reduction and the Thomas Partey visa case happened in the same tournament. The VAR gesture investigation and the empty seats crisis happened in the same first week. Each of these stories would be significant at any World Cup. Together, in the space of less than 2 weeks of tournament football, they represent something genuinely unprecedented in the history of this event. Now let us talk about what this trophy confirmation means specifically for the precedent it sets going forward, because this is where the long-term significance of yesterday's announcement is most clearly visible. The 2030 World Cup will be hosted across 6 countries on 3 continents: Spain, Portugal, and Morocco as the primary hosts, with centenary celebration matches in Argentina, Uruguay, and Paraguay. 6 countries, 3 continents, multiple political systems, multiple heads of state. And now, thanks to what Infantino confirmed yesterday, a precedent that a host nation's head of state can personally co-present the World Cup trophy if they want to. What happens in 2030 when the King of Spain or the President of Morocco, both entirely legitimate heads of state of host nations, requests the same involvement that Trump has been granted for 2026? On what grounds does FIFA say no? The precedent has been set. The argument is available. You gave Trump the trophy moment. Why not us? And beyond 2030, every future host nation's government will have this precedent available to them. Every head of state who wants to be photographed handing the World Cup trophy to the winners will point to 2026 and ask why they should be treated differently. FIFA's answer: If it chooses to limit this arrangement to 2026 rather than allow it to become permanent protocol, we'll need to explain why the political involvement of one head of state in the trophy ceremony was acceptable while another's would not be. That explanation will be extraordinarily difficult to construct without revealing the commercial and political calculations that actually drove the 2026 decision. And if FIFA cannot construct that explanation, if the precedent of 2026 effectively becomes open invitation for future host nation leaders to insert themselves into the trophy ceremony, then the World Cup's trophy moment, one of the most powerful and emotionally resonant images in international sport, will have permanently changed from a football moment to a political moment, from an image that belongs to the game and to the players who win the tournament, to an image that always includes the political leadership of whatever country happens to be hosting. That is the real long-term consequence of what Infantino confirmed yesterday on a morning television sofa. Not just that Trump will hand the trophy at this World Cup, but that in confirming it so casually, in the phrase "we are together all the time," Infantino may have permanently altered the visual grammar of the World Cup's most important moment. Let us also address something that will come up in the comments of this video, because it always does when we cover stories like this on House of MB. Some people will say that this is not a big deal, that previous heads of state have been present at World Cup trophy ceremonies, that Trump is simply the president of a host nation and his involvement is natural and expected. These arguments deserve a direct response. Yes, heads of state have attended World Cup finals and been present at trophy ceremonies before, but there is a meaningful difference between a head of state attending the final as an honored guest, watching from the stands or from a VIP box, being acknowledged ceremonially, and a head of state personally co-presenting the trophy. The difference is in the image. The difference is in who is in the central frame when the winning captain first lifts the trophy. The difference is in whose hands the most iconic object in world sport passes through on its way to the captain. That difference matters. It matters because the World Cup trophy ceremony is one of the most watched moments in human culture. The image it produces is reproduced billions of times. It defines how that tournament is remembered. And the decision about who appears in that image, who is credited symbolically and visually with presenting the ultimate prize in football, is a decision about what that moment means and who it belongs to. Infantino's confirmation that Trump will be part of that image, not in the background, but in the central act of presentation, is a decision with consequences that will be felt every time that image is reproduced, for as long as that image exists, which is forever. Now let us talk about what happens if the final itself becomes a platform for protest, because this is a scenario that FIFA urgently needs to think about but appears not to have fully considered when agreeing to this arrangement. If Trump is present at the World Cup final to co-present the trophy, and if the supporters of the competing nations at that final include significant numbers of fans from countries that have been deeply affected by Trump's immigration policies, and given that the final will involve teams from all over the world, this is almost certain, then the atmosphere inside the final stadium could include organized political protest on a scale that would be unlike anything a World Cup final has ever seen. Anti-Trump chants, political banners, demonstrations that turn the greatest single sporting event on Earth into a political flashpoint broadcast live to 1 billion people. FIFA will then face the choice we described earlier with the Australian fan chants, enforce its rules against political expression in stadiums, or acknowledge that the political nature of the ceremony it has sanctioned has made its own rules impossible to enforce consistently. There is no version of that scenario that is good for FIFA. There is no version that allows Infantino to claim credibly that this World Cup maintained football's political neutrality. Because political neutrality, in any meaningful sense of that phrase, ended when Infantino sat down on that sofa yesterday morning and said we are together all the time. Football has always been political in ways that its governing bodies prefer not to acknowledge, but there is a difference between football being affected by political realities that exist in the world, something that is inevitable and in many ways understandable, and football's governing body making deliberate choices that embed specific political figures into the sport's most sacred ceremonial moments. The first is something football has always navigated. The second is a choice. A choice that Infantino made, and yesterday confirmed publicly, in terms that leave no room for ambiguity. We are together all the time. I am MB. This is House of MB. We have now covered more major controversies at this World Cup in 2 weeks of football than most tournaments generate in their entire duration. We will keep covering every story, every development, every moment where the gap between what FIFA says it stands for and what FIFA actually does becomes visible enough to see. Because football deserves better than this. The game deserves governing by an institution that puts the sport first, not commercial relationships, not political alliances, not personal friendships described on morning television as we are together all the time. Until that institution exists, House of MB will be here, watching, reporting, and refusing to look away from the stories that the cameras covering the football do not want to show you. Subscribe. Hit the bell. Share this video with every football fan who is watching the matches without knowing the full story behind them, and I will see you in the next one.